What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Danny the Bull, back with another live stream here on Sunday, fun-filled Sunday. I've got some time on my hands. Figured I would squeeze in a live stream. Let's see who we got in the house here today. Mr. Planet Prophet says, oh, dear. Wes in the house. We got Russ in the house. I'm going to address both of those comments in this stream. We got Vil in the house. What's good? We got P Civ in the house. So a lot to talk about always. And again, been a lot of FUD, and I wanted to talk about, whether or not I'm worried as a token holder. I've been holding OMI for obviously a couple of years now. Been through some ups and downs, been through some euphoria stages, some OMI's gonna moon phases, some OMI's going to zero phases. And so I wanted to take a moment to just discuss everything that's been going on. We got Pharaoh in the house. What's good? My German peeps, let me know if you're from Europe. I try to stream at this time, of course, to try to get more of the European folk in the house. We got Justin here. Chiku Morega, what's good? Voodoo. Wes is asking, when $5 OMI? OG Vault, what's up? Fudmaster Vault. OG Fudmaster. Turtle, it seems like it's time to get bullish again at these prices. Yeah, and so I wanted to talk about really the turn of events. It was all good just a month ago. If you can rewind a month back in October, the topic of conversation and the narrative was the New York Comic-Con. We were talking about VV parties. We were talking about being in the Marvel booth again. We were talking about, excuse me, we were talking about the Funko partnership, the first one of its kind announced. We were talking about the Louboutin partnership. We were talking about physical comics, the addiction drop, and the physical VV comic. We were talking about physical VV Marvel variant comics dropping. And so the sentiment was quite bullish. On top of that, the OMI token was trading at, I want to say 0009, 0008, right down off of that big pump, because it did go up 100% in August. So it had settled nicely, 0008, 0009. There was a lot of positive sentiment. And just like that, a Thanos snap on the community kind of shifted the collective consciousness and the major narratives that we're seeing if you're over on Twitter. And I think the reason for that is that the market ran and left OMI behind. Market went this way, OMI went this way. And then when that happens, we're reminded of the bearish narrative, right? There is, for every investment in any sector, there is a bull and a bear case scenario. And when prices go up and we're in that euphoria stage, the main narrative that plays out in the conversation is the bull narrative. When the price goes down, especially when everything else goes up, the main narrative that plays out will be the bear narrative. And I think that's what's taking place right now. Of course, there are legitimate, concerns and things within that bear narrative, within that bear case. There are legitimate concerns and risks. So we'll talk about it. We'll go through it. As always, let's see who else we got here. Vivi Versum in the house from Germany. We got Coffee in the house from Sweden. OG Vault, great to see you in the stream. What about Cavell the Bull Anderson in here? Yeah, Cavell was in. It was funny because I said Cavell's name a couple of weeks ago, and then he popped up in the chat. So he's lurking there sometimes. Cavell would be a great guest for No Bull. I did invite Cavell on before I started No Bull, but he couldn't. We couldn't make it work. I do want to get him on. I will be reaching out to him. We got Bill Gators in the house, Ben Robinson in the house. OMI is my second biggest bag. I have a 6-figure investment. Definitely starting to get concerned. Yeah, and I think it's natural to get concerned. So, like I said, there are risks. There's a bull case, bear case scenario for every token. And I went over this in previous videos. When OMI is firing on all cylinders and the price is up and there are bullish, things taking place, or at least when it's keeping up with the market and there are bullish things taking place, we tend to focus on that bull case scenario. It's why we all invested in the first place. The partnerships, the catalysts that are still ahead of it, major exchanges, hopefully, the utility that hasn't kicked in, the associations that it has, the deflationary aspect of the tokenomics that a lot of people like, the fact that VV generates real world revenue. So when the price was, let me pull it up. When the price was over here, if you go back to the yearly, when the price was over here, that is what people are thinking about. That is what they're talking about. And, they're focused on that, all the reasons why we got into it. And that's the narrative that really takes shape. When the price dumps like it has since and the rest of the market goes up, it reminds people of that bear case scenario. And that is the poor communication, the trust erosion in regards to the team, the conservative approach on the crypto side. They have the lawsuit that's hanging over their head with Ben and the disproportionate distribution of tokens. But these risks still exist when the price is going up. When it goes up 100%, this bear case is still lurking in the background. And similarly, when the price is going down, this bull case is still lurking in the background. So I think it's important not to get caught up in emotions and short-term time frames, because you see the violent volatility of the market and how it moves rapidly in both directions. And OMI in particular has been known to do that in isolation of the rest of the market, right? It doesn't quite always follow the rest of the market. It's kind of insular. And a lot of that has to do with lack of token awareness and not being on many exchanges. It's only on a few exchanges. All right. And so you'll see that there's a disconnect between the token and the rest of the market. So am I worried? I'm not worried. Part of the reason why I'm not worried is because I am diversified, right? So that helps. If I wasn't diversified and OMI made up 50% of my portfolio or all of my portfolio, would I be worried that I would have anxiety right now? Probably, yes, I would, because the psychological nature of investing is a grind. And again, if I was over leveraged and all I'm seeing and hearing from from Twitter and online is this bear case scenario, talking about they're never going to get anything done, they're going to be left behind, If I was over leveraged and over invested in the token, yes, I would have cause for concern, because then there's opportunity risk. But that's why it's good to diversify. Do I think that it's going to remain at this price forever? No, I don't. I don't think we're staying at this level. Do I think it could go down more? It's possible it could go and retest that 0005 range. Right? The chart doesn't look nice, right? It doesn't look good. I'm not a TA guy, but I know enough to know that this is not like a breakout chart. So short term, could it go lower? Yes. Long term, crypto moving and them hitting the catalysts that are still in front of them, because they will eventually hit catalysts, right? And we saw what the catalyst did in August, the VV versus beta, and we saw what happened with the first bit of utility coming out. That's when we had that 100% increase in price. So I firmly believe that the price is not going to stay down, right, in a full-on bull run and them hitting catalysts. But again, will it reach the full potential? Because that's why we all came here. So there was a question up above by Russ. I have a lot of faith in David and Dan, but I'm concerned about OMI missing the next bull run. Your view? So it depends on what the definition of missing the bull run is. If it's, going past all-time highs, previous all-time highs, I think there's a possibility that it doesn't, right? If they don't, they need to execute and get things done in order to do that. That being said, I don't think they need to execute on every single, catalyst, but they do need to execute. So is there concern that they won't hit all-time high? Yes. Do I think that they won't hit a penny? I think in a really bear case scenario, you have to be open to the possibility. But do I think that'll happen? I think that they'll eventually get some things done. And there are milestones, I think, ahead of them. If you look back at 2023, I know it feels like nothing. It feels like they haven't gotten anything done. However, in 2023, they did get crafting and burning done, waitlist, an improved search feature, the Fidgetal Funko partnership, comic, VV Fidgetals, the start of marketing, the start of MCP, some light utility and staking, right? Soft staking, the BABA partnership, languages in the app, and VV verse beta. Now, projecting out to 2024, do we think that we're going to get a VV verse wider rollout? I would say yes. I would think by Q1, they said in a fortnight, which is like another week and a half. But by Q1, I do think we'll have VV verse wider rollout. The advanced waitlist, Dan said could come end of the year, but we know what that means. Could it come by end of Q1? I would say yes. Once that advanced waitlist is out, that sets the stage for the ability to use MCP points, spending points, and then bronze tickets, which is their priority right now on the OMI side. Do I think those could come by the end of Q1? Yes. So I think that those four things can be here before the halving in April. And then you have other catalysts ahead, buying OMI in the app, OMI to gem, OMI to NFT, app improvements, OMI staking season 1, meaning, beyond just points, right? Getting rewarded for staking OMI. And then hopefully exchanges. Within the next 12 months, could we see, if not all of these milestones, 2 to 3, quarters of them? I think the answer is yes. And if the rest of the market moves, will we not see OMI move up in price? I think the answer is also yes. So while it sucks to see it lagging behind others, and for reference, here is a comparison on the monthly with some good comparables. So on the monthly chart, OMI is down 26%, while Sandbox is up 59%. Mana is up 67%. Gala is up 79%. ApeCoin is up 38%, right? So that's what hurts the most. And that's what brings about that bear narrative, right? Makes it like a more dominant narrative right now. If you zoom out a bit, this is the yearly. It's not nearly as bad. So OMI is down on the year 39%. Sand is down 24%. So there's a 15% differential. Mana is up 4%. Gala is down 17%. And Ape is down 44%, more than OMI on the yearly. So the point is, it feels bad in the short term, and the dominant narrative and the dominant sentiment is overly negative. But I do think that it's over-fudded at this point. There are very clear concerns and very clear things that need to be corrected and milestones that need to be hit. However, the level of FUD on Twitter is ridiculous, right? And I feel like you see this, and it's important not to get caught up in it. And you have to kind of like touch grass, ignore short-term sentiment, and not get emotional off of it. Because I talk about, look at Solana. What is the main narrative right now on Solana? Just hit. Let me pull it up. That's not it. Let's go to the yearly. If you go back to a year ago when it was in the teens, and before this it was $8, what was the dominant narrative? And the two coins are nothing alike, right? But I'm talking about sentiment and how it shifts. I can tell you because I've been in Sol for as long as I've been in OMI. The dominant narrative when it was $8 was that it's going to zero, was that it was pumped and dumped by VCs, Sam Bankman-Fried, that all the developers were leaving. The gods, the biggest NFT community, the biggest NFT creator, left and went to Matic. There was no TVL. The chain broke all the time was the narrative. And it was hard to hold, let alone buy that low. If you fast forward a year, that narrative has changed. Now it's, will Sol be like, will its second cycle be like ETH's second cycle? It's leading the charge. It's next to get an ETF. The point is that you can't get overly emotional on short-term price action. And it's important to recognize that two things can be true at once. There is a bull case narrative for the OMI token that drew a lot of us into it. However, there are concerns there, right? And we have to be cognizant and aware of the bear case. These two things coexist at the same time. And so when it's up 100%, that doesn't mean that we forget about the bear case and that it's no longer exists and that they're firing on all cylinders and that everything is great. But likewise, when it's lagging, it's important not to marry the bear case scenario. So those are kind of my thoughts on the current sentiment and where things stand in terms of token price. We can't think in terms of absolutes, right? And it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Long term, they do need to execute. However, there is still time for them to get things done. And, I think that people want reassurance. And Dave and Dan didn't do the community any favors with their recent AMAs in terms of their words regarding the token. One of the knocks is that one of the perceptions is they don't care about the token. They never talk about the token. In my opinion, they blew an opportunity to talk about the token and show people that they care about the token. Instead, what they did was talk some more about regulation and leave people thinking about what they can't do with the token instead of what they can do with the token. Because by and large, from what I understand, the roadmap remains the same, and that is bronze tickets, OMI to NFT, OMI to gem, purchasing OMI in the web app, OMI to accessory, and all of these things are still in play. And even if you can't directly buy things inside the VVverse or there's no direct integration, I'm sure that there are workarounds there, right? I'm sure that you can use MCP points or use bronze tickets or use gems that you bought with OMI to use inside the VVverse. There are workarounds, and I think it was Doctor of Stuff who talked about one of those, that something that happened with ApeCoin, where they plan to use it as the native currency in one of their games, Land of Marrow, I don't know, something like that. And they had to pivot and change and use Ape to buy something to use inside of the game. So I'm sure that there are workarounds. However, they kind of just left that hanging and let it fester. When you combine previous reversals on, promises or timelines, we have PTSD. People have PTSD, and they're thinking, here we go again. And it speaks to Wes's comment early on, one of the early comments in this chat. First, they get rid of land sales. Now what's next? Get rid of OMI to gem because of the poor communication. However, Dan said that OMI to NFT was being scoped out by him and Mitch. To my understanding, that means that it's still in the plans. He also said that the basic roadmap for OUP hasn't changed. And yet, people left those AMAs questioning everything in terms of how they're going to proceed with the token. And so I thought that it was poor communication. However, I do think that they have every intention to make it a utility token, because if they don't, then they're at real risk with the SEC. When you talk about a fear of regulation, you have way more to fear if you sell a utility token and then don't give it utility. They're already knee deep in the game. In crypto, you cannot backtrack. So they didn't get rid of things. They communicated poorly. And I think that they need to have foresight and understand how the community reacts to things and understand how the community feels about previous things that were walked back, right? It's like touchy situation because they made promises and overpromised, underdelivered, missed timeline severely, right? And so, let's see. I'm distracted here. Jojo said it's being scoped, so they are not working on it. Are they brainstorming still? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what scoped means. My thinking is that they are figuring out how to incorporate it. Point is, it is still in the plans. And so what I wish they did with that opportunity that they had to address the community and not leave them walking away thinking what Wes is thinking. What I wish they did was talk about what they can do rather than what they can't do. Now, Reese was in Telegram today. Let me share my screen again. Reese was in Telegram today talking a little bit about answering questions. I only saw bits of it. VV Viral posted this, so let's read it. He stated, I agree that that right now it feels like earning MCP points isn't a strong utility, as no one has been able to do anything with their points yet. But as David Dan mentioned in previous AMAs, points will become key to unlocking a lot of features in the app, so they'll become a hot commodity in the future and presumably drive more demand toward the token as VV collectors look for more advantages over everyone else. For me, OMI to NFT is probably the single most impactful utility, particularly from a public perception point of view, and returns OMI to its original use case intention of being able to buy, sell NFTs using your tokens. So it's definitely the one I'm looking forward to most. So the game plan hasn't changed in terms of giving OMI utility. I do think that there was poor messaging, and OMI to NFT will give it a very strong, again, get it the most. I think that's the strongest use case other than how it was originally designed. Let me get back into the chat and see what you guys are saying, thinking. Jojo, crazy. They had the longest bear market in history. Yeah, it's frustrating for sure. And they do need to pick up the pace. And my expectation was that we would definitely have more than what we have now. But it is what it is. The utilities are still ahead of us. It's also important to note, I'm going to add another. This comes from Sona. It's important to note that not every token is fully fleshed out in terms of utility and having like 10 different ways to use it. Sona says the OMI FUD is not fair. 99% of cryptos do literally nothing and pump for no reason. OMI can pump 200% in one day, but you won't believe me until it's too late. So I do think there are reasons to be concerned, reasons to be frustrated. However, the FUD is in overdrive, and it's also important to remember the other side of the coin. We got Yannick in the house. What's up from Switzerland? Cavell said $10 OMI. Doctor of Stuff said $5. Yeah, I say nowhere near those prices. I think in a best case scenario, I have said that I think it can hit maybe 5 cents. In a super like blowout scenario, I'm talking about next cycle, like 7 cents. But I think that those levels would even be hard. My bullish case was 2 to 3 cents. Nowhere near $5, $1. Those are crazy, unrealistic market caps. And I've always said that those are crazy, unrealistic expectations. And it's important to have realistic ones. Is staking enough utility for new exchanges? Yeah, I think staking with bronze tickets is enough for new exchanges. So let me see what Mr. MC1 said. Maybe for confidence share, how many people are working on things? Maybe introduce the leaders. Correct. And that's another thing, creating more transparency. So when people just hear that there are things being worked on, but they don't see the results of it, they question whether or not they're being worked on, right? Because it's kind of like being in the dark, being in a room by yourself in the dark and you can't see what's going on. But if when people talk to Mitch, they got some confidence because they realized that he was competent and they saw a shift. And then they saw little things happening and they started to become bullish again and think, well, perhaps we had some bad tech stuff going on. So we have some tech debt that now Mitch is capable of fixing, and it instilled confidence. They say that they've hired a blockchain team, perhaps a 5-minute video talking about the technical aspect of what they're doing and how bronze tickets will work to show people that these things are in the works, right? But just because you can't see them and they're taking a long time doesn't mean that they're not happening. All right. And so it's important not to get emotional, and it's hard sometimes, especially when we're seeing what we saw in the last week in the market, in the last month, really, in terms of the prices of everything else going up and OMI going down. But it's also important to remember that OMI was down and flat pretty much all year through July, and everything else was rising. Alts were slowly rising. They were off of their lows. And then they went down a bit, and then OMI doubled. So it's important to recognize that price action is short-lived. Long-term, they need to deliver. But there is still time for them to do so. What's good from Germany? We got Ma here from Germany. Josh says, if OMI to gem NFT is so crucial, why was it put on the back burner for bronze tickets? A function that isn't needed at the moment due to low user base. So my assumption would be mechanically it's easier to build out. And so they also, I think, have to go in an order of operations that makes sense in terms of their development team. I'm just speaking for them. I don't know. I do think that they would be wise. So another thing that Dan said was that, there's a school of thought. They're building out VV first, and then they're going to build out OMI. I do think that they need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, so to speak, and capitalize on the upcoming bull run, because the success of OMI in the next bull run will grant success to VV, and there will be new people introduced to VV. It's one way to grow. So they have these two sides of Ecomi, right? You got the VV and the OMI side. And you can feed new users into VV with either side, because I got into VV through OMI, as did many people, I'm sure many of you here first got into VV through OMI. And even if they have to wait, they need to build out the web wallet. Maybe they need to redesign some things on the web app before they can go to OMI to gem, OMI to NFT. And that stuff might take until mid-year. I don't know. I'm speculating. They can still ramp up the staking. They can go season 1 staking. You can go bronze tickets, season 1 staking in quarter 1 or before the halving, in order to just show that you're to increase utility, onboard more people, and I really just shift sentiment and show people that OMI is the path forward and that they're not neglecting it, because at some point people they're frustrated from waiting so long. It really takes action. And that's why we saw that burst of euphoria at that first staking capability, right? However, now that died off. But they would be wise to even sprinkling some small exchanges. And another tweet that I bookmarked, I'm not sure if it's here. This was an old tweet that I made. It's from February 11th, 2023. The following coins launched in 2020 or after. Check the number of exchanges. This is back then. I'm sure that there are more now. Alluvium 36, Aptos 41, Gala 61, Sand 80, Mana 100, Bonk, which is a Solana meme coin, 14, OMI 4. These numbers have changed since then. Maybe one more for OMI because it was Renegade listed. The goalposts have shifted. At some point, they're going to list the token. Why haven't they done it? I saw someone was asking in the comments. Someone asked me again. So I was looking back down here. Kirkleberry had mentioned how the reasons don't make sense. But there was also a lawsuit hanging over them in terms of from the old team member. And we don't know how that factors into getting listed on exchanges. And so it might take some time for the token to get listed on a major exchange. But they can still give us the ability to purchase it. And again, I'm speculating. The ability to purchase it in the web app and give possibly smaller exchanges while we wait for whatever they're waiting for. Let me get back into the chat here. Pharaoh says, free Palestine over here. What's up, Mr. Bull? Greetings from Germany. Voodoo in the house. Let's see, what else we got? Sorry, I got lost in the comments. So that goes back to Jojo's question. Is staking enough utility for new exchanges? I don't know what the real, what the reason is for are they waiting? If they're waiting for utility, I would say yes. If they have to wait a little for that case to get cleared up, then maybe it's longer. We don't know the answer to the question. It's been speculated about. I don't know. Did they overhype OMI in the beginning? Is that their dilemma? I think that's part of it, along with the shifting expectations. So there was a lot of overhype in the beginning, and then I guess over promising, under delivering, that really hurt sentiment because there were a lot of moon boys, right? There are a lot of people who bought into VV and OMI super hard and got, I guess, feel hurt or burnt. And so that turns moon boys to fudders. And I don't like to use those terms, but it just shifts their thinking or sentiment and makes them angry and frustrated. So yeah, I think that's part of it. Chat, please don't be all in on any one crypto except Bitcoin or ETH. Yeah, and I would 100% agree with Bill here. Because I'm diversified, I have absolutely no worries about OMI. I think it'll go up. I'm pretty sure it's going to go up some multiples. Maybe it doesn't go up as much as I thought if they don't, deliver. But I'm not getting overly emotional on short-term price action because I'm not over leveraged or over invested. I wonder if Akomi is going around contacting influencers. Cavell Anderson went from $10 OMI to I sold everything to now back. I can't wait. I think Cavell goes back and forth. And if you follow him, you know that. Cavell's got his bearish thoughts and his bullish thoughts, and he expresses them both. Sometimes in the same video, sometimes in back-to-back videos. And sometimes he gets overly bearish, and then sometimes he gets overly bullish. It's just, that's Cavell being Cavell. OMI is my biggest bag by far, but honestly, trading IMX, VR Veracity, AVAX, and ADA right now. and leaving OMI be. And I think that's a good strategy. If OMI hits 3 to 7 cents, I'll be really happy. With utility exchanges, I think that's doable. And it is doable. And that's also the point, is that it's still doable. And you can't, a few exchanges and some strong utility pumped out there, and all of a sudden the narrative changes. And the bull case scenario runs again. And then you have no idea. When I was streaming, I have a very good pulse on sentiment because I stream and I get to interact so much. When I was live streaming the pump, you could see people FOMOing in and talking about, I can't believe I didn't buy a 0005. I'm buying now on the pump. Buying at 0012. That was short-term sentiment. It's not good to get overly euphoric and overhyped and also overfudded and overly bearish. Either way, you can get burnt. But it's easier said than done. Yeah, ETH gas fees are back. The question is, will hit the catalyst before bull market is over? I highly doubt it. So they have time, because the bull market will run if it sticks to other historical bull runs for crypto. It peaks 18 months after the halving, which means we have another full 2 years. And so I would be, if they can't implement OMI to NFT in 2 years, yeah, I'd quit YouTube and I'd become a fudder if they can't deliver on those basic utilities in 2 more years. I'm just kidding. I would never become a fudder, but it would severely change my thesis. And there is time, is the point. But look at what's interesting also. It was only 6 weeks ago when OMI was in the top 100 coins in August on that pump. It cracked the top 100. It's since fallen or been surpassed and dropped to 212. Got flipped by over 100 coins. Market cap sitting at 176 million, which is not a micro cap. Still, it's big compared to hot tokens right now, right? I'm talking about like games for a living, things like that people are looking for the next cycle. $200 million market cap. I don't know if I said 200,000 before. $200 million market cap is not, small, but this was a top 100 token. It's been passed by. At some point, this is oversold. And, if the rest of the market goes up and OMI stays down, and, Gala and Mana and Sand are racing towards billion-dollar valuations, at some point in context, OMI is undervalued. And people will realize that, I think, specifically in tandem with Catalyst, and it'll run up again. That's just the way crypto works. When things run, people look for what hasn't run yet. And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people look for small coins. Crypto is an irrational. We try to apply rules to it and treat it like a traditional, I don't know if we try, but sometimes I guess people try to apply rules to things. It's an irrational market, and it does irrational things. And when we talk about why did it go down so viciously, I think part of it has to do with heavy sell pressure. And Patient Hodler made this video about someone, perhaps a former team member, dumping billions of OMI tokens from that peak in August. They took advantage of the spike of the 100% increase in token price and started dumping OMI from 2 wallets, billions of it. So I'm going to play. Let me know in the chat if you guys hear, if you can hear Hodler. No sound. Sorry, guys. All right. I don't know what's going on with my StreamYard. I got to figure it out. But basically what he's saying is dumping started. Go watch the video. It's from like a week back. Hodler does great work. There were 2 wallets possibly connected to each other containing billions of OMI. The selling started at the run-up to 0012. It continued in that consolidation period of 0008 to 0009. And billions of tokens were sold off. For a project like OMI that has only, what is it? It trades in, it's on limited exchanges. It has what, $600,000 in 24-hour volume, right? There's not as much liquidity. It has much less volume than bigger caps. It makes the moves more violent and volatile. It makes it a more volatile asset to the downside and the upside. Now, when I talked about the bear and bull case for OMI, part of that bear case is disproportionate distribution of tokens. That there are people with large amounts of tokens, and if they want to exit and looking for an opportunity, they could drive the price down. So it looks like that possibly happened. And now the question is, why would someone want to sell at 0008, 0007, right? Why sell low? But if you look at the ICO and you go back to when this token was sold, 1 OMI at that time equaled like 1 sat or whatever it is, like 8 zeros, 0.801 Bitcoin, which amounted to, if my math was right, $72 for 1 million tokens. Okay. Go back 5 years. $72 for 1 million tokens. That means for $7,000, you could have had 100 million OMI tokens, and for 72,000, a billion. And so for people who maybe think that there's better opportunity elsewhere, or that they have too much, or they've been waiting and they're frustrated and they have billions, they could take the opportunity to unleash on those pumps, causing a lot of sell pressure. And so it's something to remember that, and that's also why when I talk about, when people ask, well, it can go to 5 cents, 10 cents, I talk about the heavy sell pressure that's going to exist. Because yes, there's going to be euphoria and people are going to want to buy, but there are people with really big bags that will look to dump and look to, maybe dump isn't the right word, but sell and actualize their profits. And so there are a lot of things that factor into short-term price action. Long-term, it's important to keep in mind both both scenarios, but the bull case, the bear case, the risk that's involved, along with the possible reasons for reward and the narrative that could drive it, propel it in the next market cycle. Because they both exist, and there are no absolutes. What's good? We got Daniel Lee in the house. I'm gonna have Dan on the channel this Wednesday. No Bull episode, I think 4. I'm up to episode 4. I'm gonna have Dan Lee. I'm gonna have Ron's Cryptotherapy, who is very well versed in crypto, and Jordan Riz. So I'll have a diverse group. Let me get back into the chat. Make sure you hit the like button. We got 87, almost 90 people up in here. Smash the likes. Let's see if we can get it to 100. And I appreciate that. Most of these milestones are VV related, not OMI. Yeah, so there are a lot of VV related milestones, but there are plenty of OMI related ones, and we don't need them all. So they do need to focus, and it would be wise for them. So there's a school of thought that thinks that they only care about VV. However, take into account that they can create a bunch of whales in the VV app by focusing on OMI. So I do think, besides the fact that they will become absurdly rich, on paper at least, if OMI moves up in price. Aside that, they have really big bags. Think about people like Randy, like Jordan, like many of you in this chat who are holding 20, 30, 50 million OMI, even 10, 5. And if it goes to 1 cent, 2 cents, I got a super chat. Thank you for that, Maxwell. Appreciate you as always. But think about, where is it? Give me a second. If it goes to even its local high last time of 0.008, right? It never reclaimed a penny. Someone had 50 million OMI, that's $500,000 almost. 20 million is 160,000. If it goes to, a penny and a half, 100 million OMI is $1.5 million. 50 million OMI is almost $1 million. They're going to create VV whales because people are going to actualize those gains, sell, and have a lot of money. And it's very similar to how people were ETH rich and bought up JPEGs, right? Last cycle, and PFPs, and were just spending. Someone bought an ETH rock for, what was that? $1 million or something. They would be wise to focus on the token side of things, capitalize on the cycle, because it will help the VV side of things more than any marketing could ever. When you are creating whales within your community, you're giving the token utility and making it fire on all cylinders, getting it on exchanges will create millionaires within the community. That's a fact. And many of those people will not hesitate to buy up Todd's and Donnie's and all those grails. So again, when people say that they don't care about OMI, they should, and I think that they do. Yeah. Back to my tweets here, my saved tweets. Thanks again, Maxwell, for the bear money. Uncle Jeremy, every once in a while, he gives his thoughts. And Today, he said he responded to, I guess, this Arahant post that Doctor of Stuff talked about yesterday. Preface this is what he meant. Preface this by saying that I've never sold a single OMI, and I purchased meaningfully more recently at approximately double 1.2. Hope Jeremy didn't buy the local top. It seems like he bought green candles. Maybe not. Maybe he bought on the way down. Hope he didn't buy in August, though. Down 50% from that time. Utility exchanges, the two missing pieces. I've always said this is a sprint, not a marathon. So Jeremy is also sharing the frustration. He also is still, obviously, not only still holding, but still buying. And I'm assuming that he had a lot of OMI to begin with. But he did buy more. Mo Collections wrote, why a sprint? If you were in control of OMI, wouldn't regulation be a major concern for your roadmap, given being attached to large IP? Jeremy wrote, not if I'm already on minor exchanges. What's the difference between selling your product at a small retailer versus Walmart if it's already on the market? Right? Which means to say the cat's already out of the bag. They're already a crypto project and they've already committed to this, that they shouldn't fear regulation. And I think that the narrative around their fear of regulation is a little blown out of proportion, meaning because we only hear them talk once every 6 months, but we might not hear them talk about OMI for 6 months on end, right? And the one time we do, they mention regulation and how it's shifted the land sales. And so people, the runaway narrative from that is they're afraid of regulation and won't do anything with the token. But that's just not true, right? I think that, yes, there are fears around regulation, so I think they're going to move nimbly, but I do think that they're going to proceed with the token. And if they didn't, that would be a big problem. But, it is okay for them to consider regulation and dance around it. And this is an article that was shared with me by someone after a last stream talking about legal concerns of real estate in the metaverse, navigating the virtual frontier. And it talks about the problems that could occur involving a number of things, in terms of like leases and renting things out, hacks, all sorts of different things that need to be worried about. And I'm sure that they are thinking about this. But I do think that there are ways that they can get around some of that stuff, like I said earlier. OG Vault says nobody's buying Donnies. Yeah, but people would buy Donnies if they were OMI rich and they'd actualized those gains. Todd says, I had 8 million OMI that I dumped, moved to other better managed crypto ecosystems that were also down. Yeah, and that's another option. There are many coins to choose from. I have not bought a lot. I bought OMI this market cycle. I hit a target. I raised my target a few times. I'm comfortable with the number that I have. I'm currently looking at micro caps. And so if you feel like there are better opportunities, take them. And I think that that's a good decision. Everyone makes their own good decision if that's what you believe and that's what you're, part of your game plan. Mo in the house. What's good, Mo? I just spoke of you. Speak of the devil. And he appears. Let's get back up into the chat. My Collectibles in the house. What's good, buddy? Let me just scroll up. And this is another thing about Justin brings up irrational markets. We overthink things sometimes. FTT token is up. Look at that. This is the token behind the collapsed FTX that went down in flames. And look at it. It is pumped ridiculously. It's got a market cap, I think, in the low billions. So crypto is a very irrational market, and we shouldn't, you can't always try to make sense of it. Danny, I agree with you. I think OMI struggles to gain anywhere near 1 cent. Potentially, I think we get as high as, and that's possible. It is possible that it doesn't reclaim a penny. I think we need to be mentally prepared for a bunch of different scenarios playing out. And I think that as the market progresses and as things materialize and we see where they are and where it's going and the token awareness, if they're able to, get it listed and broaden the community, we'll get a better feel for where it's going. It would be disappointing if it hit 0008. However, it would still be a 13x from the bottom. And if you bought on the way down, so my average price is 0015 or something, that would still be a 4x. Disappointing, yes, because I could have opportunity cost, because you could invest in other things that do 10, 20 in crypto that do 50x. Would it be disappointing? Yes. Would it be the end of the world? No. So BV has 30K a year devs. So we don't know who they hired in terms of their capabilities, their skill set, etc. So I don't know. Solana is gone so much it turned to my biggest bag. Same thing here. Solana flipped my whole portfolio. It became my biggest bag. And it goes to show you these parabolic runs that can happen where things don't stop. And so something could feel like it's dead in the water. It doesn't mean that it is. And you could see a scenario playing out where they drop OMI to NFT and they drop on something like KuCoin, Binance, and it could be third quarter of 2024 or early 2025. And all of a sudden it does a 5 to 10x in a matter of weeks. Because in a bull run, the volatility is violent and the swings are vicious. And we've seen Sol do a 7x in an accumulation phase, and early, at best, the early stage of a bull run. It's done a 7x. So my main point is don't marry a single narrative and be open to various possibilities, and don't get swept up in short-term sentiment. I'm open to OMI hitting 2 or 3 cents. I'm also open to it hitting 0006, 0008. You could literally have chosen any other than OMI and you would be up. Correct. It's amazing how we all did that. VCs backing out was a positive for Sol. The project itself has a lot going for it. Agreed. OMI has nothing going for it. So now I think that also what would be positive for OMI is diluting the token holders, the top, the people who are holding billions of tokens, and getting rid of them along the way, long term, is a good thing. In terms of OMI, what they've been good at is on the VV side, not yet on the OMI side. So there's work to do. Matic. But where is Reese? Shouldn't he be talking about it? Not Dan and David. So I think this is a corporate approach. They have been they did really bad job early on, right? In terms of overpromising, under-delivering, received a lot of backlash from it, and eroded trust. And they've pivoted and done a 180. And now their position is, we're just going to build, and when something is ready, we're going to talk about it. Specifically, I think on the token side of things. And so this is why I think Reese is not talking. And I think he might have said something similar in Telegram. He can't talk like in the early days. And that's a new approach. I think that they should they have to meet somewhere in the middle. And you can't go from over communicating to under communicating. And that's sometimes what they do, because then they just drop a nugget on you. They just will say in passing, oh, we're not doing land. Well, we don't know about land sales. We're not sure about, OMI integration in VVverse. And they just leave it there. And that creates fear that they're going to leave the token behind, which I don't think is the case. But communication-wise, that's what people are getting from it. That's what they're hearing. So it creates fear. It creates uncertainty, because now you're muddying the waters and you're creating uncertainty. Like, back to Wes's question. He's uncertain. And you sow doubt in people's minds. And that is FUD, right? Poor communication leads to FUD. And I think they need to work on it still. I do think that they are working. Right? They have hired people. They're obviously, getting things done slowly, but they're, getting things done. But that communication, it needs to be somewhere in the middle, where they're not over-promising, but they're keeping you in the loop and not leaving you asking questions and wondering what's going on. And that's been a pattern of their communication. So it's something that could be improved. And I talked about that in a previous stream. Because you remember when the first tokenomics system was changed, there wasn't any real formal announcement. It was said in passing by Reese on an Akil Patterson podcast. And he kind of just mentioned it and said, oh, yeah, we're working on a new utility program. And that led to backlash. Like, what are you talking about? And then they introduced the new token platform, the program, and everyone loved it. But they set timelines. And the expectation was that it would be rolled out this year. That again led to backlash, right? The timeline portion of it. And now they seemingly walked back a couple of the pieces of it or shifted it, but they haven't communicated that. And that sows doubt and uncertainty. And so that's a communication thing. If it wasn't for diversifying into other alts, I probably would be pissed about OMI. And that's why it's very, very important, right? Diversify. If this scares you and it messes with your head, and the market and it at some point runs up again, maybe it's time to diversify then. Create a plan for yourself if you're feeling anxiety about holding something. Because there is, again, the bull case and the bear case scenario. And what will play out over time, a mixture of both, most likely. Didn't get rid of anything. Spread across real estate. Let's see what else we got in here. What's so hard about getting listed on a major exchange? Yeah, so I mentioned that earlier. I talked about that a bit. David, you always forgets the DocuSign. On the one hand, we pull up websites, reports, etc., about plans the company shared before doing them. On the other hand, we are saying, tell us more things. And this is also true. And it speaks to the community. Sometimes needs to Um, Relax. Even though, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have concerns and frustrations, but sometimes you just have to not jump on everything. Yeah. So I don't know what the right answer is in terms of communication. I just know that just contradicting previous statements without clarification is not a good setup. All right, what else we got here? Let's see what else. Did Vivi have an OMI men, and why so few exchanges? We talked about that. I got into OMI first, not big into the collectibles. Right. So that speaks to people getting into OMI first. And so again, they'd be wise to play the OMI side of things. I believe the VV verse will be fully functional and impressive by this time next year. OMI will then start to get burning mechanisms, and it will be in time for the 2025 parabolic run. And also, there are 3 wallets that started with 10 billion OMI that now equal 10 million cumulatively. It is similar to the Shiba donation Vitalik did towards India. Selling pressure will fade. Yeah. So again, have to think long term and not get caught up in short term sentiment while understanding risk reward and managing risk properly. How big of a part does exchanges play in this, regardless of utility, when it comes to cycles? If you could buy OMI on the web app, but have no new exchanges, would the token still pump during cycle? Yeah, this is something that I've talked about with people. I mean, it pumped to more than a penny or last cycle without major exchanges, but that was clearly like pump and dump sort of thing with former team member. You had the Logan Paul thing, right? There were, some things there. It failed to reach a penny again, but it came close. Is it possible that it gets to a penny without major exchange? If you have strong utility and the ability to purchase in the web app, it's possible. Specifically, if the NFT sector heats up and VV starts heating up, right? If the NFT sector heats up and there's a flight towards licensed IP and, VV rebounds a bit, and then the user base grows, and then there's a network effect where if you have strong utility, the more people on VV means the more people who are incentivized to purchase OMI, and then they can do it through the web app. So that's another path forward. But this is from NFT Stats, and it shows the top 10 NFT projects a month ago versus today, floor-based market cap. And you see that money is starting again to flow into NFTs. Again, this is measuring CryptoPunks. Now, will VV be a benefactor of that? It's possible, like you get some big, if they get some big key drops, like a Banksy during a bull run, what kind of attention would that draw to VV? Some other grails in new verticals. So there is potential. They have shown one of the things that can't be denied is their ability to get partnerships and onboard new licensors. So, it's possible that there could be hype around some drops again during the bull run, and you could see user base grow. Also possible that people like myself, like, Dan Lee, whoever, you guys in the chat who are invested in other projects like Caspa, ETH, Matic, if those things go up exponentially, and you guys have a lot of money and you love VV, it's a good chance that that will also create some VV whales if they keep the community engaged, right? And those people that are heavy in crypto go heavier in VV. And then that will bring eyeballs, and it's like a cascading effect. So there are different paths forward for both OMI and VV. Ideally, what I would want to see is them firing on all cylinders on both sides and not neglecting OMI. What's good, my collectibles? Cavell is bullish ever since Phoebe unblocked him. So maybe that's what it'll take to get OG Vault back bullish. Glad to be here since February 21 on VV. What's up, Ernesto? Dino Dragon, despite my better judgment, I picked up another million. Got to increase my chances to break even. That's funny. At the current rollout rate, how can you think they'll implement some of these things before the 2-year period? Yeah, so let's answer that. And let me share my screen again. So let's look at possible milestones. I think it's very likely the VVverse rollout is going to be here in 2024, the wider rollout. That feels like it's just around the corner. Advanced waitlist, I think, again, will another 14 months, 12 months, it will be here. And then once that's here, so you can't have loyalty program, spending points, and bronze tickets without the advanced waitlist. You can't have it because part of the new advanced waitlist is the ability to use your points to secure drops, to use your bronze tickets to secure drops. So when you click the waitlist button, you have an ability to also use your loyalty points. So that has to come after waitlist, right? Some of these things are predicated on other milestones being hit. So will advanced waitlist come out in 12 months? I think that's reasonable and likely. And then I think it's reasonable for loyalty program and spending points and bronze tickets within 12 months. Now you could argue with their rate of movement that some of those other things, OMI to gem, OMI to NFT, would I be surprised if those got pushed to 2025? I wouldn't be surprised. Based on, as Josh is saying, the current rollout rate. That wouldn't surprise me. But we'll still be in, if historical, again, if history repeats, we'll still be in the midst of a bull run in 2025. So could it come in 2025? I think that's reasonable to expect. I don't think that, even considering the pace at which they move, I think within the next bull run, these milestones are achievable. We will see. Danny the Bear. Still bullish. Mr. MC1 says, option 1, list on many exchanges before OMI has substantial utility on the app, or build substantial utility and then list on many exchanges. Yeah. As long as these things happen within the time frame of the bull market, because I hear a lot of people say, I have a 5 to 10 year time horizon. And I think that's faulty. I don't. On the OMI. On VV side of things, maybe, yeah, I can have a longer term. On the OMI side of things, crypto is cyclical in nature and has so far run in 4-year cycles. So I'm not looking to hold beyond this cycle, the majority of my portfolio, and hold through a 90% drop, because then you're holding through a, a 2-year bear market if history repeats. And that's not safe for any altcoin, right? Anything can happen in that time span. And so if you're a crypto investor, you're looking at this cycle. And if they don't, hit during this cycle, then it's disappointing. Daniel Lee said, give it time to Vault, get his account unblocked. OG Vault is fudding till then, but Vault has slowed down on the FUD a little bit. So deep down inside Vault's heart, there's a big, big VV bull that lives inside of his heart. If they start listing into OMI into exchanges, VV will get new people. Correct. Speaks to that point from earlier. Yep. MC1's other option, list on exchanges before significant OMI utility, or option 2, list after substantial utility. Splint likes option 1. Jojo, I dumped 100 million OMI the last month. Damn, Jojo's exiting. That's a lot of OMI. VV only has IP, and OMI still has zero connection to VV. And don't say MCP points that you can't. Right. It's soft staking at the moment. So they need to do more. Let's see what else we got here. Let me scroll down. Cool Mo in the house. What's good? Crazy Dan in the house. Gary the Weasel Gensler is the one pumping FTX. Yeah, I guess that's because, it's a good point. Talk of an FTX revival by Gary the Weasel. But you see how just talk of an FTX revival pumps it. Crypto doesn't take much in terms of catalysts. I feel like something else is going on the community doesn't know. There's absolutely no reason to move this slow. Being a crypto company, the things they need to do with the token are quite easy. Yeah, so I don't know if the tech debt and having to retroactively fix things at the same time building out are what's taking so long. I would love to interview the team members one day and ask them specifically about, that question. Ernesto, time to diversify. I think it's always a smart move to diversify. Hey, Danny, do you think OMI will benefit from the next halving? Yes, I do think that all crypto will benefit from the halving, including OMI. But OMI is unlike because it's so insular, it doesn't always run at the same times, and it's also reliant on them getting things done. But I do think it will benefit. Yep. Tino says we need Ben back. What's up, Chago in the house? Let's see what else. Who else we got in here? Johnny Dunn in the house. Jojo, I'm exiting 99% of my portfolio this bull market. I'm not holding another bear market. Correct. And I'll be looking to do the same. Which makes them, that's why when people get anxious about them not missing the bull run. And one, streams full of people highly leveraged in OMI get tiring. One-on-one or these live streams are so much. One-on-one or these live streams are so much better. I'm not sure what that meant. I mean, one person mortgaged his house. OG Vault, my man, I wondered what happened to you. OG Vault, still streaming on weekend drops. What's up, Mark? We got Michael here. I'm going to call it a quits here. My voice is getting sore. Just wanted to come through. Join me Wednesday evening for No Bull episode 4. Dan Lee, Ron's Crypto Therapy, Jordan Riz. Should be another good one. And thank you all for coming through. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the way out. Appreciate you all. Thanks for contributing in the chat. I'll catch you all in the next video.